Okay, so the first round of the NFL draft passed, and Shedeur Sanders did not get selected. And I felt like I should make a video on it, so this morning I decided to make a video just kind of talking about it. But one thing I said in that video was, this isn't completely unprecedented. We have seen things kind of like this happen before. I think about the Will Levis thing was an example I've brought up, where sometimes there's a quarterback that the fans of just football in general and the draft analysts think is going to go highly and just doesn't. That's happened before. I don't know if anything quite like this has happened before, where he's fallen all the way out of not just the first round, but the second and the third round. Keep in mind, he is some people's quarterback one. I believe Mel Kiper had him as the top player in this draft class. He has completely fallen out of the first 3 rounds. I was trying to think of a comparison I could come up with in recent history, and the best I could come up with was the 2022 NFL draft, where it was the Kenny Pickett draft. He was the one drafted in the first round. Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Matt Corral, and Sam Howell were all there as well. This was kind of billed as a bad quarterback draft, though most people thought that some of these quarterbacks would go early just simply due to there not being a great quarterback available. So maybe you just reach on it because it's so important. Such an important position. Malik Willis is probably the best comparison you could come up with. He was 10th on the consensus big board. He did go in the third round, but he went at pick 86, so not quite as big of a fall, but still kind of in the ballpark, so to speak. But I would say a big difference with that was with Malik Willis. Okay, yes, he ended up falling all the way to 286, but Desmond Ridder went at 74, and before that was Kenny Pickett at 20, and that was it. Here, we've now had 4 quarterbacks selected ahead of Shedeur Sanders, and one of those was expected, Cam Ward, but the other 3 weren't, including Dillon Gabriel, who was considered a pretty... he was kind of considered like I would say him and Tyler Shough actually were considered lower tier quarterbacks. Even Jalen Milroe were considered somewhat lower tier quarterbacks. Also, I said it wrong. 5 quarterbacks were taken ahead of him because there was Shough, there was Milroe, there was Dillon Gabriel, and then there was Jackson Dart and Cam Ward. So you have 5 quarterbacks taken ahead of Shedeur Sanders. So that's completely different than the Malik Willis situation, who, again, still went in the third round. Again, maybe like Sam Howell, you could make the argument was somewhat similar, but again, Sam Howell was projected to be a mid-second rounder. It's just not the same thing. I have not seen anything like this. I've been covering drafts for 6 years, 5 years now. This is my 6th draft. I have never seen anything quite like this. What is going on? That's just the question that we're all asking, right? And everyone's giving their theories. The reality is it's probably more than just one thing. There's probably more than just one answer. Usually these things are a bit more complex than we like to think. But what is it? So what are some things? A, he isn't a great prospect the way that maybe some people thought he was, right? When I did my film evaluation, I did not think that he would be a top 5 pick. I did not think he should be a top 5 pick. I wasn't shocked at all when I found out he was going to fall out of the first round. That made sense to me. That being said, I still thought he was better than where he's falling, but that's a part of it, right? Is the film just isn't that great. There's some great plays, there's some great moments, but it's not his tape is not as good as some of the guys who have been selected ahead of him. I think that's reasonable. I do think that his tape is better than some of the guys selected ahead of him. So what else is going on? Well, I do think that it's probably fair to say, again, we don't know what went on in those interviews. We can't say definitively, but if he's falling this far, is it possible that some people just weren't crazy about some of these interviews, right? Is that a thing that happened? And when I think about some of these teams that are selecting quarterbacks right here, so let's go through them. Obviously, Cam Ward, that's just, yeah, sure. Cam Ward's just a better prospect. You're going to select him. Jackson Dart. Again, some people think Jackson Dart's just a better prospect due to the film. I was one of those people, but my name's Jackson, so I'm biased, right? But ultimately, maybe the Giants just liked him better. And then every other quarterback, they're not guaranteed to be a starter. Tyler Shough with the Saints, Jalen Milroe with the Seahawks, Dillon Gabriel with the Browns. All those guys are maybe going to be starters someday. Jalen Milroe, for example, he's not a starter. They just paid Sam Howell. Maybe he'll Russell Wilson his way into a starting job, but probably he's going to have to come in and be a backup. And do you want Shedeur Sanders as a backup? I think is another question, where if you're not building a franchise around him, he's going to get a lot of attention. There's going to be a lot of extra stuff. And is this a Tim Tebow situation, for example, where a lot of teams say, like, listen, we would like to have you as a backup, but there's too much of a media circus around it, and we know when our starter has a bad game, people are going to chant, we want Tebow, so we're just not going to go with it. Maybe there is some of that thinking as well, which is hurting Shedeur Sanders. And at this point, you just have to wonder, where does he even go? I can't imagine unless Cleveland also doubles down on quarterback later on, I can't imagine he's going anywhere to be anything but a backup. Maybe Pittsburgh does something where they say, let's draft him, have him learn behind. I'm assuming they're going Aaron Rodgers, given the fact that they haven't gone quarterback. But yeah, it is quite frankly a shocking development. And again, a lot of people are dunking on Shedeur Sanders and having their fun. I do also kind of feel bad for him. Like, this has to be a really tough moment for someone who, like, if we're being honest, has had a lot of things go his way up until this point, to have a situation that very much is not. That's tough when you thought that you were going to maybe go to a great situation and be a starting quarterback, and instead, this might be it for him. Like, he might not get to go in the right situation where he has a chance to start, and that could just be that, right? That's possible. Maybe he'll go to a team with a starting quarterback, and their starting quarterback stays healthy for the next 5 years, and then that's it. That's possible for Shedeur Sanders. So ultimately, I mean, I think this is kind of a lesson in don't count your chickens before they hatch, and do all the combine workouts, right? Do all that stuff, because I do think that had he played ball, you just have to think that, like, the tape is good enough, I think, to be drafted in the first 3 rounds. I think that that's, like, pretty clear. I didn't hear anyone saying he is not a day 1 or 2 pick based on tape. The tape is good enough to be drafted over Dillon Gabriel. So there has to be something else there. And again, if you feel like there's going to be too much extra attention going on, that's not really worth it for a backup quarterback, right? And if that's what you view him as, then I think a lot of teams probably just took him off the board because of that. I feel very strongly he will ultimately get drafted at some point, but again, I don't know what the situation is for him to get drafted to a spot where he has a chance to start. Maybe the Titans do something where, like, we saw the Patriots double down on quarterback just because, hey, like, who knows if quarterbacks are going to hit. Famously, when the Washington Redskins, which was their name at the time, drafted RG3, they also drafted Kirk Cousins later on in that draft. So you could double down. I don't know. I have no idea, to be honest. But yeah, maybe the Jets do it. Something there. But yeah, what a crazy, crazy turn of events. I thought for sure he was going in the second round. I thought he might go in the first. I thought for sure he would go in the second, if not the first. Crazy. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.